Are we?
We are on the record, yes.
I want to call the meeting of the, I just want to do this. Thank you. I want to call the meeting of the Tennessee Real Estate Appraiser Commission January 2019 to order. Our first order, I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you on this beautiful sunny day. Thank you for being here. I want to turn the meeting over for experience interviews at this point.
If it's okay with you, Chairman, if we could wait for just a minute and get the agenda and the roll and all that done, and then we will read into the record the experience interviews toward the middle.
Okay.
That looks good. That looks okay.
I'm reading this
just
wrong.
Just to get us going. You got it.
Okay, yeah, I'm reading this wrong. All right, I want to call to order. Go ahead, Roxana.
Thank you. Do a quick roll call, make sure we have quorum. Ms. Rosemary Johnson is not here today. Chairman Randall Thomas.
Here.
Mr. Mark Johnston, also not here. Dr. Warren McCara.
Here.
Thank you. Rex Garrison.
Here.
Thank you. Jim Atwood.
Present.
Thank you. Jason Bennett, also not here today. Brett Mansfield.
Here.
And Michelle Alexander. Here. Thank you. We have 6 out of 9, so we have quorum to proceed.
Want to continue?
Yes, absolutely. It is my pleasure to introduce to you and turn over for a minute. We have the 2 ASC auditors with us, and Jenny and Vicki are joining us, and fortunately they made it out of D.C., so I was a little bit worried with the weather. So I'll let Jenny introduce herself and give you any information you want.
Hey, do I need to? Oh, I don't need to do anything, do I? Good morning. It's great to be here. So, thank you for this beautiful weather. So actually, Vicki came out of D.C. and she did say there was about a foot of snow on the ground there. But I am living in Colorado now, so we always have a foot of snow on the ground. It's great to be here. So I've been your policy manager through. This will be the second compliance review. So we're here. Biennial compliance review. We were here 2 years ago conducting one. And I'm assisted by my very missing assistant, Vicki Ledbetter. Right now, she'll be popping back in. So we brought gifts with us, an annual report. It's sort of a greenish color book in front of you. I brought that and a copy of the current criteria along, as gifts here for several reasons. One, on page 83 of our annual report, there's a copy of Title 11. And as you well know, Title 11 is our enabling legislation. It starts with Section 1101 there, which is the purpose of Title 11. And goes on and then goes on to 1011, which is the establishment of the appraisal subcommittee. We are a federal government agency. Because we do not exist on general funds, we are not furloughed right now, as many federal government employees are. But we were established from Title 11 and in 1989, and then in 2010, when the Dodd-Frank Act was signed, it amended Title 11. So this is a copy with all of the Dodd-Frank amendments in it. And so we are here this time conducting not only a compliance review of your appraiser program, but also the very first compliance review of your appraiser management company program, which was part of the Dodd-Frank amendments to Title 11. So we'll be looking at both of your programs while we're here. And while I'm talking about the annual report, if you will flip to page 11 in the front, you will see a list of our member representatives on our board, which we call the appraisal subcommittee. So they are from the heads of the banking agencies, from HUD, the Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection, and FHFA. And they name members that sit on our board. They meet every other month, and they make the decisions on the behalf of our agency. And then we, as the staff, carry out those decisions. And the staff is listed on the very next page when you flip over. We're a very small federal government agency. We currently have 12 staff people, and we are listed there. The Title 11 and the Dodd-Frank amendments gave a lot of functions to the appraisal subcommittee. One of them is to oversee the state regulatory agencies, and we do that in various ways. It gave us the mandate to maintain the national registry, so that is on our website, and anyone can go to that and see any appraiser who's eligible to appraise in federally related transactions, the status of their credential, how many states they hold a credential in, and whether or not they have any disciplinary action that affects their ability to work on that national registry. We maintain a complaint referral hotline, and that is a link on our website, and it's a 1-800 number where anyone who wants to complain regarding a transaction involving an appraisal or appraiser independence or anything related to that can go to this referral hotline and figure out what agency needs to receive that complaint. So it could be a state regulatory agency, or it could be one of the federal agencies that sit on our board, or whatever agency it needs to be. This referral hotline walks the person through the steps to figure out what agency to send their complaint to. And then our last major function that Title 11 gave us was to monitor the appraisal foundation that sets forth the criteria for becoming an appraiser and sets forth the appraisal standards for operating and conducting appraisals. So as I mentioned, we are here to do a regular compliance review, and when we conduct compliance reviews, our benchmark for conducting those are the appraisal policy statements, the ASC policy statements, and you can find them on page 95, and policy statements 1 through 7 correspond with the areas that we will review of your appraiser program. We will review each of these areas and we will report on each of these areas. And then policy statements 8 through 10 will correspond with the areas that we will review of your appraiser management company program and report on those. We begin the process of our compliance review long before we get on site here. We've already studied your statutes, your regulations, your policies and procedures, meeting minutes, website, all of that type of thing. And then when we come here, we observe a board meeting or a commission meeting, and then we will spend a couple of days in the office with your staff looking through files that we have pulled to review. We randomly select a lot of files, and then we will target some certain files that we've read about in your meeting minutes or that sort of thing. So that's what we'll be doing for the next couple of days here. And then when we complete our on-site review, we make sure we meet with your staff and have sort of a closing conference and go over any questions we have or any comments that we might have at that point. And then we go back to our office and we write a staff-to-staff report, putting in writing our preliminary findings of the compliance review, and then that comes as an informal document and asks for a response within 60 days, so that prior to it being presented to the actual subcommittee, you've had a chance to respond in writing to the preliminary findings of the compliance review. So once the subcommittee sees it, they see our preliminary thoughts and your response to those, and then they are the decision maker as to the outcome of the final compliance review. And we do use a rating system, and that rating system can be found on page 128 of the annual report. There are 5 ratings, and you will see that they are excellent, good, needs improvement, not that satisfactory or poor. And you're placed on the your finding is based on the criteria that is there in that middle column. And then your review cycle, how often we come to see you, is the third column there, and that's based on the rating that you received. So 2 years ago when we were here, you received a rating of good, so that's why we're here 2 years later conducting the next regular compliance review. One of the things I want to be sure that you know and understand is that I am your policy manager, so I'm available to you anytime. Anytime you have statute changes, regulation changes, you're going to change your application or your website or anything like that. I'm another set of eyes for you to look at things and make sure that they won't somehow run afoul of the federal requirements. I offer my time and assistance at any time, or if you just want me to maybe put you in touch with other states that are doing something that you're interested in possibly look. So before I leave today, I'll make sure that you all have one of my business cards, and I invite you to call me or email me at any point that you may need to ask guys to look at things. I'll be glad to do that, and pleasure to be here. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have about who we are while we're here. Questions or want to come up and say hello?
Any questions from the commission? I have a question, Ms. Tidwell.
Sure.
On the referral hotline, is that maintained and archived?
That
The
is-
questions?
Okay, let me make sure I understand. I know that we keep track of how many complaints are referred and to what agencies. Now, we don't follow up, I believe, and to find out what happened with those complaints in the end, you would have to go to that agency that received the complaint to find out that information. Is that what you're asking?
Guess what I'm looking for, what I was trying to see is if you had a complaint was filed, this time last year, can I call and ask you and you say, yeah, there was a complaint filed on about this or about that? If it was some way archived to where it could be followed.
Oh, to see, I believe all we know is what agency that complaint was supposed to be referred to.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the only information we would have. Whether they actually turn around and file that complaint or not, I don't believe we know.
Right, and we don't necessarily know what the complaint was.
Okay. That's what I was asking.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
hotline, based on the response that's received. Oh, I apologize. We know how they responded to each of the cues
Sure.
and questions, and it responds them to the, and they then receive the actual question.
Thank you.
I know that, I believe it's even in my annual report, that it's a report of what agencies were the final outcome from each correspondence on our
Thank you, very good. Anyone else have any questions? Thank you, ladies. We appreciate you being here. Don't make too many bad comments about the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Want to adopt the agenda. You've all been sent a copy of it prior to this meeting. Is there any corrections or additions need to be made, or do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Motion's been made. I hear a second. Motion been made and second to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Roxanne, you want to talk about the Roberts Rules of Order, please?
Yes, sir, thank you. I actually will turn any questions you might have directly to legal counsel, Anna, but if you don't, every year at our first meeting, we go ahead and adopt and say that we will follow Robert's Rules of Order in order to conduct our meetings. We can answer any questions you have regarding that. It's been a minute since we've done training, so hopefully next year we'll do training on all those pieces. But again, if we've got questions, she can review. As we bring new commission members on board, that orientation covers all of this and how a proper meeting and how a motion would be made and so forth. So if there are no questions, we would have to state on the record and motion that we do follow Robert's rules.
Okay. Someone like to make a motion that we follow Robert's Rules of Order?
I'll move.
Motion been made
Second.
and second. All those are ready to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda is election of a chair and a vice chair. Open the floor for elections for chair.
Nominate Randy.
Motion been made to nominate Randy.
Second.
And second. Any further nominations? Do you want to vote on these independently or together? Let's vote on them independently.
We'll do a roll call vote either
Okay.
way. So we've got
We don't,
a motion and a second for chair, and then we can separately do vice chair.
okay.
And then if there's any other nominations, we can continue.
Any other nominations for chair? All right, we'll close that and we'll go ahead and vote, Roxanne.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson is not here, so first would be Mr. Thomas.
Sure.
Johnson is also not here. Dr. McCara?
I approve.
Motion. Rex?
Yes.
Mr. Atwood? Jim?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Jason Bennett's not here.
Yes.
And Ms. Michelle Alexander?
Yes.
All in favor? We'll have a chair.
Thank you for your confidence. We'll open the floor for vice chair. Any nominations? I'd like to recommend Mr. Garrison. Motion been made and second to recommend Mr. Garrison for vice chair. Any other nominations? Nominations close and cease. Go ahead, Roxana.
Thank you. Randy Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. McCara?
Yes.
Rex Garrison?
Yes.
Jim Atwood?
Yes.
Brett Mansfield?
Yes.
And Michelle Alexander?
Yes.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for your confidence in both Rex and I appreciate it. We'll do the best we can, even though we'll struggle. Thank you. Please look at the October. Please look at the October minutes and review those to make sure they're correct. Anyone have any additions or corrections to the October minutes? Someone want to make a recommendation to approve those, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and second to approve the minutes. Anyone have any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We accept the minutes. Now we'll move on to the education. Sorry about that, folks. Recommendations. Turn it over to you, Roxana.
Yes, and they are on page 20 on your iPad, so I'll give everybody a minute just to get us to the right place. So before you, and I want to take a minute, and I know that Heidi is just as thankful as I am to, again, appreciate the individual time that all of our commission members that are able to review these and do these interviews in between the meeting. It is really appreciated. I think we're getting a little bit of an increase, and it'll keep going in that direction, I expect. So it is wonderful when our applicants can interview with you closer to home, and then we can put it all on the record at the end, but it gets them out in the field quicker, so that's wonderful. The page on page 20, the list of everyone that we are presenting has been changed a little bit, so hopefully this helps. It's going to keep us going by individual, and then we'll read it on the record. So Chairman Randy Thomas, you're the first one, and it's Brian Coe.
Yes.
Okay.
Brian, go ahead.
And then Rebecca Billard.
Yes.
Okay, so both of those would be a yes. If we can go ahead and motion on these, or do you want to do them at the end? However you prefer.
Pleasure of the commission. Do them all at once?
Yes.
We'll just do them all at once.
Please.
Next is Mr. Rex Garrison. You had one individual, Will Harvey. Thank you. Jim Atwood, we've got 4 individuals here, and I'll go through the ones that were taken care of. Ashley Phillips. Yes. Okay. Bridget Salazar.
Bird.
Okay, thank you. Robert Dooling
Yes.
and Sheriff Ibrahim.
Yes.
Okay. And I skipped the first one. I apologize. No wonder. Nathan Watts.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Next is Mr. Brett Mansfield, the first one on your list, and I apologize if I'm doing injustice to the names. Eric Zalazinski.
Yes.
Okay. Chris Jakubaskas.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. That's right. Mike Walsh
Yes.
and Carrie Beatty.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Mr. Johnstone is not here, but he did have a chance to interview Daniel Tenholder and recommended this individual for approval. So we have a yes from his part.
You've heard the recommendations from everyone on the continuing experience interviews. Anyone want to make a motion to accept all those?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Roxana.
you.
Now I got to go back to my agenda. At this point in time, is John Hicks here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Let me brief everyone
yeah.
on what you have. So,
Okay.
thank you. And I think that's great. We've got someone appearing before the commission. I received this actual letter by the time I received it, the agenda and the iPads had been loaded. So you have at your sites a letter. It's 2 pages from Mr. John Hicks. It's actually 3, a front and a back and a page. Mr. Hicks is asking consideration of his experience, the hours he has. He's wishing to upgrade from a certified residential to a certified general, and so I will give you a little bit of time so you can read the letter, and then he can answer any questions you may have. Anna, our legal counsel, has had a chance to review it as well, so if we have questions, we may not be able to conclude the exact number of hours and what's pending today, but at least we can definitely answer any questions he has and then finalize everything afterwards. But it was a good opportunity for the commission to read what he had, and he may have more questions of us.
This was mailed to me. Was this mailed to everyone?
No, it
Oh,
was not.
okay.
It was not.
Okay.
That's why I printed it
All
for
right.
you to review, because I didn't get it until Friday in my hands. I
Okay.
didn't have all the moving pieces, but we wanted to give him the opportunity to
Okay,
speak
can we
to the
take a couple
commission.
minutes and read this?
Yes,
All right,
please
let's take a
do,
couple
and then he'll
minutes
come
and
up.
y'all go over this. Mr. Hicks, you want to go ahead and make your way to the podium here?
You'll have to make sure your voice goes off.
of you can finish up. In regards to your letter, you want to just give us an overview?
Yes, sir. And I do apologize for the short notice with the letter. I'd actually mailed this to the state in October, but unfortunately the United States Postal Service did not until the day after the October meeting, so I do apologize for this. I wrote to one of the representatives with the Department of Commerce and Insurance. Advance notice for the January meeting, and that it was a mistake on my part, so I do apologize again for the short notice of this letter. That being said, my position has evolved a little bit after I read the Appraisal Commission's General Provisions Handbook in greater detail. I now understand that the additional 180 hours to upgrade from sorry, I forgot that was on. I apologize. But I guess what I'm asking is if the state would consider some of these qualifying education hours be taken online. Of the 180 hours required to upgrade from CR to CG, I've taken 60 that are on the list. Income 1 and 2 I took through the Appraisal Institute. I also took advanced income capitalization, but I know that's not necessarily a class that's on the list of required courses. But I did print this out yesterday, just kind of give you an idea of the costs involved with taking classes in person. General Appraiser Sales Comparison Approach is provided by the Appraisal Institute February 4th through 7th of 2019. The tuition cost for the class in person is $500. Online, it would be $569. So, yes, the tuition to take it online is more expensive. However, if you go to Expedia.com and price like a hotel and air flight, that averages about $700 just for the travel to get to Chicago. And I know that this course is available, I want to say in either August or September here in Nashville, but I live in Knoxville, about 3 hours away. I would still have to travel and do hotel stay here in Nashville. But that being said, in traditional John Hicks fashion, I've made my life that much more complicated because we're expecting our first child in July. So I'm trying to get all my classes taken before the baby arrives in July. That being said, there is a course in Chicago in February, or I could take it online possibly if the state would deem that fit. There are 2 classes in April and May here in Nashville that I could take. There's a class in March, I believe it's in Dublin, Ohio. It's about a 5.5 hour drive. I could do that. I mean, that's definitely not Nashville, but I could drive 5.5 hours to Dublin, Ohio to take that class. But if the commission could deem it fit to at least 1 or 2 of these classes be taken online, it's more financially feasible for someone like me in Knoxville, where there's not a lot.
Bernie, anything else? No, sir. All right. Questions from the commission?
Are the classes that you're asking for, are those the ones listed on the second page?
Yes, sir.
Those 5?
Let's see here. Yes, sir, on the second page, the 30-hour General Appraiser Market Analysis, 30-hour General Sales Comparison, and the 30-hour Site Valuation and Cost Approach. And also, I've already taken the 60 hours of Income Approach. I've actually got 90 hours of Income Approach, but 30 of that doesn't count. And the 30-hour Report Writing and Case Studies. Like I said, I know 2 of those classes are offered here in Nashville in April and May. That would be before our first child arrives. The other 2 classes are in August and September. And I'll be honest, once the kid comes, I would like to be as involved with my child's birth as possible. And I don't know really how much time I would be able to break away from that nature. So maybe taking at least 2 of those classes online would help out.
Other questions?
Point of order here. I thought we had decided some time ago that QE classes cannot be taken online. Now, do we have the authority to make an amendment to that?
So as our rules are presently, there is no online qualifying education. So I don't believe that's in your discretion to allow
I didn't think it was.
those courses to be taken online.
Yeah. So this commission, unfortunately, has made a decision not to accept online QE courses.
Oh, on
think-
our, go ahead.
I think, too, some of these classes probably should be taken in class versus online. Some of them, due to the complexity of them, I think it would benefit you to be in class.
With the commission at the Appraisal Institute's synchronous classes are,
Synchronous?
yes, sir, I apologize for the mispronunciation, but that's definitely more interactive, in my opinion. I've taken CE in that platform, and with that, you are required to be logged in for the requisite hours. In my opinion, it's definitely more interactive than, say, just your general online course.
And I would agree with you that that's true. But again, unfortunately, I think we've decided that any QE classes cannot be taken online, even in a synchronous presentation.
Only thing that I do want to add is that we're going to look at the revised rules that we have in the pipeline here in a little
Right.
bit. And so in that change, this commission, along with the public, because it was a public hearing, kind of changed the language a little bit. And it is going to include some online courses, but they're specific courses. It wasn't just a certain
Right,
number. So
right.
I
That's
don't
what we
know
Not
if that-
apply to hit, to
It
Mr.
would
Hicks'
not apply,
request.
that's correct. I just wanted-
That's what we.
Not include any of these that he's looking at.
Okay.
Mr. Hicks, when was this letter written?
It was written in October, and it was actually right before I went on a vacation because I had planned on coming to the October hearing. And I
I don't mean to be ignorant, but October 2018?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I apologize. Yeah, October 2018. And there were two representatives from the Department of Commerce and Insurance who were kind enough to explain to me, no, if you read one page further in the book, you'll see that there are 180 hours of QE needed. So, yeah, I accept what they told me, and they were doing a good job of explaining things to me. In my first little snippet there, where it says that someone applying for QE needs 300 hours, and I thought, well, since I'm CR, I've already got 200 hours. But like, no. Again, if you read one more page further in that handbook, you'll see that they actually require 180 hours more.
So the 180 hours, you say you've taken 60?
Yes, sir.
Which
I've taken,
means you lack 120?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me ask you something. What have you done between October 2018 and January 2019? Have you acquired any of that 120 hours?
No, sir. I was wanting to hear the state's or the commission's opinion as to if they would allow any of that. That being said, too, I believe the only courses that were available in person, one was in California and one was in Oregon. And I don't know if Tennessee had any of the classes that I needed in between October and now. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure there were no classes that I needed on that list. Or even in Louisville, Kentucky.
Any other questions for
Got
Mr.
a
Hicks?
point. So when did you obtain your certified residential license?
I obtained my CR in March of 2011.
March of 2011.
Yes, sir.
So
And then I started, I went back to school to get my bachelor's degree in January of 2013. Yes, sir.
So I can definitely sympathize with your frustration. So I did the CR first and took all
Okay.
the classes, and then did the CG, and so had to basically retake the whole portfolio again. But kind of what Rex said, I mean, a lot of these classes are going to be totally different content, and it's going to be more complexity than the classes you've taken, and so I know it's there for a good purpose. So
Of course.
right now, so you're also requesting just an extension. When is that due? When is
I believe Heidi said my application is good for 6 months, and I want to say my application was originally submitted in August, so that means it would be expiring next month. I could possibly get all my classes done by May. IO in February and March. So I could definitely get my classes wrapped up by May, and if you guys see it fit to
I think with that too, I mean, you still have to get your interview. Is that all that has to fall within that 6 month period?
Yes,
so,
sir. That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and your test and all that. So, you know, I don't see an issue with that with everything that's happened in your record. In terms of waiving a class or, you know, there's just been a precedent set. So,
Understandable. Thank you.
All right. This is not something we need to vote on right now, is it?
Well, you will need to vote whether you would like to give him an extension to complete the courses for his application. So Rule 1255-0108H, F states that you all have the, it's in your discretion if he submits a letter in writing, which you have before you, to grant an extension beyond the 6 months the application is active.
And in that granting of that extension, do we set the time?
Yes, so there is not a specific.
Okay.
You can decide the time.
All right. Thank you very much. Brent?
yeah, I'd make a motion that, I know you said 18 months if possible. I mean, with everything that's happening and to kind of give yourself time, I think that's realistic.
Okay.
So I would make that motion.
Second.
Our motion been made and second, and you correct me if I'm wrong, to extend it 18 months?
Is that sufficient?
Yes, sir. Most
Okay,
definitely.
now, any discussion? And I have a question. Is the 4 months that's passed come out of that 18 months?
I was thinking 18 months because you still have to fit in, what, 5 classes? And your
4, I believe.
4 additional
Yes, sir.
classes? I was thinking from today.
Okay, no problem, just trying to, point of clarity, that's all. All right, motion's been made and seconded to extend Mr. Hicks's application for 18 months. Any further questions? Commission ready to, Rex? Oh, Commission ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Mr. Hicks, thank you very much.
Good luck with your first child.
I appreciate that.
All right, Dr. McCary, I didn't mean to step on you there and
Didn't
move,
hurt
but
too
you're
bad.
going to be here and he can go home.
Very good. I agree.
Would you care to give us the educational report, please?
The courses that were reviewed, let me get on my...
Where are they found?
You're on page 21.
Thank you.
Page 21, yes. There's one, you'll see that I've recommended approval of all the courses except one, course 2254 from the International Right-of-Way Association on property descriptions. The instructor is Julie McDonald. The problem there is that one of the required pages that indicate the qualifications and if the instructor has ever been disciplined by a professional organization, that was missing. And because I was missing, I could not see recommending of that. So what I have there is that I approved, everything else looked good. Okay, but it will be pending receipt of the documentation of the qualifications of the instructor. The other courses there, however, including some individual course approvals, I recommend for approval by the commission. Any questions?
You've all seen the education report. Do you have any questions?
I have one question. Under individual course approval, AJ Realty Services, Inc., next to the one next
Yes,
to the
sir.
bottom.
Next to the last one.
Was that an online, or what type of class was that?
I failed to indicate what that was. Let me see.
I
make a difference
Googled,
in your,
I Googled AJ Realty Services and nothing came up on it. And I was just curious what that was.
do I have a copy of that? I believe it's an in-person.
Okay. I'd never heard of them or wondered really what that class was, so I was curious and went searching and then came up empty.
The presenter, the instructor, George Mann, according to the information on
Hey.
here, has a total of 31 years evaluation
Yeah.
experience, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
So you saw the application.
AJ Realty Services, I don't know if George was doing it through that. I know he went through Virginia teaching that same class or a similar class. So he mentioned George.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
AJ Realty Services is a sponsor of this. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the only information I have.
Okay. I was just curious what it was,
That's
considering the
same
topic.
information I do.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, what we're going to vote on here is, and Doc, you correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to vote on everything on this page and leave 2254 up to your discretion when you get the papers that you need?
Yes.
Is that satisfactory with everyone? All right, you all seen the educational report, comes from committee, does not need a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much, Doc.
If I could interrupt us just for a quick second, we Friday got a class that is going to be starting pretty soon as far as a date, and it was requested by a group of appraisers, so it will come to you, Dr. McCara. They didn't have everything yet, but I wanted to make sure, and we did this with our information for interviews and when the commission members do interviews, so I thought it may be a good point to talk about the courses. Just want to make sure that if Dr. McCara has everything he sees fit and goes through it and approves it, is the commission okay with us going ahead and releasing that course, especially if the date is coming up? We just don't want to hold back, especially if it opens dates for our licensees. And so if we're okay with that, then we would always rectify it on the record. And if that's the case and something was wrong or we had questions or a reason for the instructor to be questioned, anything like that, we would, as long as the applicants for the course knew that the whole commission could still pull the class if we deem fit. Now, we've never done that, but are we comfortable proceeding in that fashion? So if Dr. McCara recommends it, then we make it on the record official, but we can start.
Everybody happy with that?
Yes.
We're going to dump it on you, Doc.
That's fine. That's okay. I have a question.
Yes.
Do we know why that was received so late, if it's something that's upcoming very
They
quickly?
were just asked to put together a course, and they've offered it somewhere else, and so we haven't even
Okay.
officially gotten it, and I would hate to send you things like Friday for a Monday meeting, so I would, and I explained that,
Appreciate
and they
that.
understood. But that's where I said, our process would be to always trust your judgment, because you're the authority, you review it, we go back and forth, anything missing. But I wanted to give them that peace of mind that we would discuss it, and as long as we're always agreeing with your recommendations, we can proceed to let them offer it.
Do you know if we've gotten any response from Ms. McDonald on the request for her qualifications?
Caleb and I spoke this morning. He still had not received it, so I expect it's just a timing thing. As soon as we have it, you'll have that last piece.
Okay,
hopefully.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chairman Tom.
Thank you, Dr.
Childers.
McCara. Legal report?
McCarthy. And we have 10 cases today. 2 of them are reconsiderations. To the case numbers, I'll simply refer to the last 4 digits for brevity. First case, 3951. This complaint was received in the summer, and the complaint stated that the licensee held up the sale of a home due to an opinion regarding an electrical outlet. The respondent aptly responded to the complaint. The respondent did not aptly respond to the complaint. They had their office manager submit the work file. Expert review was conducted on this case and found several violations. Specifically, the sales were not properly verified, the sales comparison adjustments were not properly supported. With this being a HUD FHA sale, said requirements were mandatory. The site values noted in the cost approach also were not supported, and the cost approach to value was not supported. In addition, the final reconciliation was not supported. After the final examination of this complaint, the initial substance of the complaint, the GFI holding up the sales, was found not to be an issue. It was actually required in this instance. The licensee had a duty to do so under FHA and lending requirements. But as stated, those 5 specific areas of USPAP violation were noted, and accordingly, council recommends 30 hours of coursework comprised of 15 hours of sales comparison approach and 15 hours of report writing, and for this to be in a consent order, and for the respondent to have 180 days to complete the coursework, and that said coursework cannot count towards their continuing education.
All right, you've all heard the complaint. You heard council's recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. To accept.
Motion been made. Second.
Second.
Motion been made and accepted. Second to accept council's recommendation. Are there any discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. The recommendation for 15 hours for each of those 2 courses, I don't know of any courses, sales comparison, that is hours. I do know report writing is 15 hours, but most of the sales comparison courses that I'm aware of are 30 hours. Now, I don't know. Does anyone know of a 15-hour sales comparison course that I'm not aware of?
And if I could, I've printed 2 versions here, but they're also on your iPad. If you wanted to take a minute to look at the courses, it doesn't ring a bell to me either. But they're on your iPads if there is one that you think would be better.
Where are they located?
You'll need to get out of, if you tap on your presentation and tap on library to get all the way out, you'll see that you have presentation, and then the 15C are our active courses. That'll help you, but that, if we wanted to pick a different one, or you could give Keith a specific subject if you wanted him to. Obviously, if there isn't one for 15 hours, then that wouldn't be okay.
One want to make a recommendation to?
It looks like course 1023. The title of this one is Residential Report Writing.
At 15 hours?
15 hours.
So what's the other 15 hours on there as far as report writing? We already have on there. Or that's the second recommendation to this?
It's a sales comparison, Mr. Atwood, that you thought we couldn't, okay.
Yes, that's correct.
So it's a sales comparison.
I'll just give a thought. An appraiser at this level who's not aware that he must support his adjustments. That's unacceptable. Supporting your adjustments is absolutely required. So we can either do one of two things, just require I'm just throwing something out, I'm not making a motion. We can make them take the 30-hour sales comparison in addition to the 15-hour report writing, or we can just simply make them take the report writing and have a dollar amount fine for the other. I don't know, but that's something. I would go with the 30. My opinion would be 30-hour sales comparison and 15-hour report writing.
Okay, first things first. Go ahead, Rex.
Well, one thought to that is require the two courses, the 30 hours, 15 hours of it, including passing the exam, goes towards the penalty, and the balance would go, he could use a CE. But that way, he's getting covered what we require, and more than what we require, and then the report writing. I know that takes a little bit. I don't know if that would work.
Okay.
And I don't know, and Anna can correct us, with the expedited complaint process, we started less than a year ago, so it's still fairly new to us. But with that, it's 100% counts toward continuing education. That's its whole purpose, and someone doesn't have any history and can apply to that. This particular licensee can't. They did have something.
I'm just saying half of it, the 15 hours, since we can't find one for 15 hours and it's a 30-hour, 15 hours goes towards penalty that can't be applied to CE, but then the balance could.
Yes, that's possible. We can do that.
Okay, first things first, we have a motion on the floor and a second to accept council's recommendation. Do you want to vote this? If you want to vote on this, we need to vote this down. Or Dr. McCary, you can withdraw your motion. Either way we want to do it, but we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Just modify it?
No, you got a motion second on the floor, you got to do something with it.
Okay, all right.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay.
If we withdraw the second.
And who seconded that?
I did.
Michelle, you want to withdraw? Okay, both the motion and the second have been withdrawn. Okay, we do not have to vote on it. Any recommendations on council's recommendation, adjusting council's recommendation? Rex? Go ahead.
I move we do the 15 hours of sales comparison, 15 hours of report writing, of which if the sales comparison is 30 hours, any additional hours would be applied to CE.
All right. That's in the form of a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, motion been made and second to basically change this to 30 hours instead of the 15. Any further discussion?
Is that possible? I mean, is that something that could be done in terms of counting part of that? You're nodding, so I'll assume it's okay.
Anna was kind enough to come up and say we can.
Yeah, we can do that.
It'll set
Very
precedent.
good.
We've never split them like that. As long as she says we can, I'm happy with it.
The
We'll
council
figure
is
out
nodding, so
how to do
that's
it.
good. All right, thank you,
Thank you.
council.
All right, motion been made and second to alter the council's recommendation. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The new motion carries. Thank you. Number 2.
It's ending in 6211. This was an appraisal of a condominium. The complainant was unhappy with traffic and noise located at the property. Upon inspection of the property, rather nice condos had a main source of ingress and egress to a not so desirable apartment complex. Initially, the complaint we received for this commission was unclear. There was an ancillary complaint that was dismissed that was filed in the real estate commission. That case has been dismissed. Our appraisal case has been reviewed by an expert reviewer, and the reviewer took into consideration the issue of whether or not an easement for the adjoining apartments should be considered. The experts reviewer's conclusion was that although it should have been dealt with in the report, that it did not rise to the level of a violation. And the expert reviewer did note that the report did not provide a summary or analysis of factors necessary to support highest and best use. Some of the physical information noted in the report about the sales and listings appear to have been improperly reported. It was not clear if these were errors or intentionally omitted by the appraiser, but the errors did reduce the reliability of the report, understandably so. Finally, the report didn't have enough information to enable the client and intended users to understand the rationale for the opinions and conclusions, and there was a lack of analysis of comparable sales data. There is no prior disciplinary history against the licensee, and with all these factors taken into consideration, Council recommends a letter of warning for the deficiencies in the use map.
All right, on number 2, you've all heard the complaint, you've heard council's recommendation. Anyone wish to make a motion? Anyone wish to discuss it?
The reviewer's findings, to me, constitute more than a letter of warning. I'm just trying to rest.
I'll chime in. It almost looks like the complainant took a grenade and just threw it and tried to see what would stick. And the real estate commission let it go. They dismissed it. So, I have a little bit of problem with this one because there is no complaint. They didn't issue a complaint, and because it was sent, it's got to be reviewed. So I sort of have problems with that.
Anyone else? Anyone want to make a motion on complaint number 2?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we approve council's recommendation. That way they get some instruction that their report had some issues, and but nothing beyond that.
All right, motion's been made to accept council's recommendation. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion been made and second to accept council's recommendation. Any further discussion? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Number 3.
It's ending in 8721. This was a non-client homeowner disputing the valuation of a home. $70,000 property, and it came in at $20,000 more than the previous appraisal. The complainant stated that their upgrades included a ceiling fan, new roof, new heating system, new floors in 4 rooms, and that the electrical had been brought up to code, and that there's an additional bathroom, and that the plumbing is now up to code. The respondent fully replied to this complaint and alleges that the owner and complainant have their own value of the property at $135,000. The effective date of this appraisal was this August of 2018. The property was purchased in 2016 for over $46,000. Our expert reviewer found that under the sales comparison approach, the adjustments were lacking explanation, including the locations for the sales 2 and 3 comparables, and the location is identified as suburban for the subject, and all sales, but no reason for the adjustments to sales 2 and 3 reported. And the adjustments ranged up to nearly 20%. As this commission is well aware, a discrepancy of below 5% is common, but ranges from 12 to 19%, that is much higher. Accordingly, 2 USPAP violations were noted by our reviewer. Section 2-1B, requiring the appraisal contain sufficient information for the users to understand the report. This report did not contain discussions relative to the formation and application of the adjustments. And this is especially applicable to the significant location adjustments to sales 2 and 3, where the location identification is the same for all of the subject sales. Next, under Standard Rule 2-2A, subsection Roman numeral 8, this requires report to summarize information analyzed, reasoning that supports that analysis. The standard is cited for the same reason as above. The example is location adjustments to sale 3 of $20,000, which was 19%, and that location of that comparable is within 0.2 of a mile from the subject property. Clearly, this would need an explanation to qualify as sufficient information for a user to aptly use this report. Accordingly, Council is recommending a consent order requiring report writing, and the course must be completed within 180 days of execution of a consent order, and the CE must be above and beyond the minimum CE requirement. And as we stated from the previous case, there are 15-hour courses. I asked for 14. Clearly, with what is just in this matter.
All right, number 3, you've heard the complaint, you've heard council's recommendation. Anyone wish to make a motion? I'll open the floor for discussion on number 3.
Well, the issue is, do they need a report writing course, or do they need a sales comparison? And in reality, I think the things that are needed can be taught in either of those courses. So I would make a motion that we require a 15-hour report writing course, which requires them to take the exam and pass it.
Second.
All right, motion been made and second to have a 15-hour course writing report. Any discussion? I just have a question that I want to bring up to the board, and you all can clarify to me. When the complaint first states non-client homeowner, and then you go down to USPAP 2-1, it says information for a user's understanding. I guess my question is a non-client homeowner an intended user of this report?
No, sir.
Not unless identified in the report as an intended user, and I'm assuming they were not.
Yeah, because if it says non-client, okay, that's the only discussion I wanted. I have a motion and a second on the floor. Anyone?
What I would throw in discussion-wise, since they received a letter of warning, that's one reason. As far as in the past, that's one reason why I thought we need to go one step further.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Motion's on the floor and been seconded. Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 4.
Case ending in number 8971. This was a homeowner that was unhappy with the appraisal. The respondent, however, was hired by the mortgage company. The complainant's major issue is the value per square foot, which was not valued allegedly as high as any of the comps, and with the comps picked by the respondent, or with the comps picked by the respondent. The respondent submitted a very thorough response and believes that the complainant is simply unhappy with the estimated value of the home. In addition, the respondent still stands by their appraisal. Respondent did use comparables with the same level of updating as the home and some with enhanced updating. Respondent is firm that the comps used were the best available in the sales comparison approach at the time. This case was sent for expert review, and the original appraisal used 5 comparables and 2 listings, and the sales prices ranged from $190,000 to over $300,000 to try to gauge an accurate square footage price. The expert concluded that based on the information within the appraisal and reviewable data, it appears the adjustments are credible. One noncompliance issue was noted in the report, however. The appraisal contained a cost approach. The land value is stated to be based on land sales. Neither the appraisal nor the work file submitted set out the land sale information or analysis, and this would be required under Standard Rule 1-4, subsection B, Roman numeral I, which requires that appraisal develop an opinion on site value by an appropriate appraisal method or technique. Despite this, council recommends that this matter be dismissed.
All right, you heard complaint number 4, and you heard council's recommendation. Any motions? Any discussion?
Move to accept.
Second.
Motion been made and second to accept council's recommendation.
Can we discuss before we vote?
Any discussion? Yes, sir.
We have a respondent who has a previous history of disciplinary action. They've already received a $500 civil penalty and required to take a course. I accept the expert reviewer's assessment that the adjustments are credible, but they did fail to support their land value, which is by definition an appraisal. So they have performed an appraisal within an appraisal that they did not support. I think that for me, I need more than dismissal of this one, especially with the previous disciplinary action. Maybe at this point, just a letter of warning would be sufficient, but I will vote against the dismissal, and I don't know if there's any others to discuss.
All right, any further discussion? Ready to vote? All those in favor of council's recommendation say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes. No.
Okay.
Yes. Whatever I'm supposed to say. I oppose.
One opposed. No problem. All right. Thank you very much. Number 5 is what we're going to?
Yes, sir.
Okay, number 5.
Case ending in numbers 7521. Respondent has been licensed for approximately 14 years. The complainant hired respondent to appraise their deceased parent's home and farm. Complainant alleges that respondent was only at the home for 15 minutes and that the complainant did not receive the appraisal until 4 weeks later. The complainant is concerned about the comparables used in the appraisals, particularly because the respondent used Google Earth, CRS, and aerial photos. Complainant is also concerned that respondent did not consider the possibilities of location, development potential, similar properties being developed. In addition, the complainant tried to meet with the respondent to get questions answered, but the respondent never replied. In the response, respondent stated that during the appraisal, the complainant left to go on an appointment. Respondent spent at least 45 minutes at the property. Respondent also drove through a nearby mobile home park to analyze the topography. After sending the appraisal, the complainant stated that they felt the property was extremely undervalued. Respondent also argues that there is limited information available relative to the complainant's specific property aspects, including its 100-plus acres and lack of access to sewer. Respondent used several different public records for the comparables, including CRS, KAAR-MLS, KAAR-CIE, CoStar, and data files. Finally, respondent states that they've been in communication with complainant, and before this complaint was filed was under the impression that they were still waiting on additional information for comparisons. Now, the expert reviewer came back with multiple potential violations for this commission to consider. But what is important for the commission to consider is that despite the numerous potential violations, the expert found that the report is generally complete but has several minor reporting errors and some incorrect data information. Specifically, the scope of work statement made states that the cost approach not applied as the subject is an older home on acreage. However, on page 43 of the report under analysis applied, the same statement was made. However, a cost approach was developed in the report. Assessment and taxes, the total implied value on page 35 is off by over $1,100,000. Put this in context for the commission. The property did appraise at more than $1 million, and there were numerous greenbelt taxes. So because of the tax advantages on this property, the implied tax value was approximately $121,000. So It is a big discrepancy, but the typo is more than $1 million of a typo. Next, the cost approach, sales comparison approach. The expert noted that contrary to the statements made in the report that the cost approach was not used, the cost approach was considered and certainly was included. A site value was developed in the report with a value per acre indicated. This section has 8 land comparables addressed and considered, and most of the information concerning them for the CRS public record and MLS appear to be accurate except for the data on 2 of the sales. Finally, the sales comparison approach. This section had 5 comparables. Houses with small land tracts were considered. Some of the information concerning these sales, per the MLS and CRS system, appear to be incorrect. Council recommends that at a minimum, the Commission issue a letter of warning.
All right, you've heard a complaint on number 5 and council's recommendation. Anyone wish to make a motion?
Can we discuss?
I'll open it for discussion.
Would this one be eligible for the conditional classes because there's no prior?
Only, yes, we could expedite it that way, but because it's a letter of warning, which is lower than the continuing education even, if you all see fit that continuing education should be achieved, it would count toward their CE. We can have them go through that.
I guess my thoughts are there are some issues or whatever. Maybe we can guide the continuing ed and get that covered, and that would be more beneficial than just a letter of warning.
All right. Any further discussion?
Yes, sir. In addition, it appears to me the client is a individual, maybe the executor of the estate, therefore not a trained report reader, and that this particular report was not written in a manner in which he could understand. And so therefore, and then refused to answer questions that would also pose a problem for me. So generally what I see here is that the appraiser did not provide a report that the client and the intended users could understand. And that is a big violation of USPAP, and at a minimum would probably, as you're asking, maybe do a report writing or something.
Report writing, maybe sales comparison, do.
What about a verification class? That seemed to be a lot of the issues.
Right. Any expert reviewer's conclusion, it says generally complete, but several minor report writing and some incorrect data. So it looks like the report writing and the data is what we need to jump on.
There was an old class, this was back in the 90s, but it was on data verification, and it was written by an investigative reporter. And it was a great class, but you don't see that anymore. And that was one that should be resurrected for the new generation, because it was a great class on verifying data.
When we request a education, are they also sent some type of letter that we could call a letter of warning and education?
I guess we could. That wouldn't necessarily then be the expedited process, but if we want to count it towards CE, that's perfectly fine. If we want to give them both situations, kind of an instructional letter, is that what you're describing?
Yes.
Well, when the condition is sent out, is it not explained? I mean, you need to take this class and this class. So in a way, it is serving as a letter of warning, but it's also recommending or saying that you need to take these 2 classes for your next cycle.
Correct.
More than a recommendation.
Yeah, it's a have to, right.
Yes,
right.
because if they don't sign on that, then you just have a
Right.
consent order that isn't agreed to. And
All right. Someone want to go ahead and make a motion on number 5, please.
Clarification, are we going to allow this person to count those courses towards continuing education?
Yeah, that's how the conditional
Okay, thank you.
expedited, I don't know what the proper terminology is, but But yeah, it's just sort of guiding them on their next cycle. You need to take this, and then if they take it, it's gone.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
All right, the chair entertain a motion on number 5, please.
I make a motion that we recommend conditional continuing education towards sales comparison and report writing.
Clarification, do you want to say recommend or require?
Or should be, well, what's a proper terminology for that? Conditional, expedited?
So the letter that you all have approved for us to send is an expedited complaint process, where CE would be counting toward their renewal process. And so as long as they read it, it does not become complaint history of any sort. And so if they agree to it, they know that it's not that it's necessarily conditional, it's an expedited process. So we're going to move them faster if they agree, but we are telling them what courses they need to take.
Still a recommendation.
It's still, they don't have to agree to it. But if they do, the course will be specific already on the letter.
But what happens if they don't
Yeah.
agree to it?
And the case lives its course. It would come back as a represent to this commission.
All right, good.
Just
All right.
like anything else,
Thank
yeah.
you.
All right, motion's been made to recommend a sales comparison approach course and a report writing course. Did we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, and second. Any further discussion? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries on the new recommendation. Number 6, please.
I could interrupt you real quick on this one. So do we have, is it 15 hours for each of those courses, a total of 30?
Or 14, whichever's.
Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah,
7
or
each,
14,
yeah.
whichever is available out there. Number 6.
Sending 9981. Now, respondent has been licensed for more than 25 years, has never had disciplinary action taken against respondent, but this review by the expert shows a clear violation of the work file rule as well as the ethics rule. The complainant here is an appraisal company whose client is the mortgage company. The complainant alleges that the respondent failed to inform the complainant that a prior service had been rendered and that the appraisal is of poor quality and lacks credibility, and that the GLA was incorrect, and that there were additional problems with the comparables. Respondent replied to the complaint. Respondent admits to mistakes in the report, but denies any intention to mislead the reader. The mistakes respondent admits to include failing to disclose that they had done prior service and that the GLA was incorrect in the second report because the garage was incorrectly combined. Although allegedly this mistake occurred because of computer software, regards to the issues with the comparables, respondent admits his mistakes. Comparable sale 1, respondent misidentified the sale as an arm's length transaction, which is not correct. It was not done at arm's length. In comparable sale 2, the house was built 44 years before the date noted in the comparables. Comparable sale 3, somewhat more minor. It was reported to have a 3-car garage when in fact it had a 2-car garage and a carport. The expert's review shows potential violations of Standard Rules 1-2, subsection E, Roman numeral I, Standard Rules 2-1, subsection B, Standard Rules 2-2, subsection A, Roman numeral 8, as well as Standard Rule 2-2, subsection A, Roman numeral 10, Standard Rule 2-1A, Standard Rule 1-3B, and the ethics rule and work file rules that I begin with. In conclusion, the expert review finds the report to be lacking in completeness and has several significant errors. The sales comparison approach had areas of erroneous data, as previously mentioned. Highest and best use analysis was not stated or properly summarized. The land value stated, but no land sale listed or analyzed. reconciliation of the sales comparison approach yielded different values, and this was not explained. And more importantly, a prior report was not disclosed to the client until delivery of the report. In conclusion, indications of multiple appraisal reports during the assignment, but the reports were not included in the work file.
Thank you. You all heard number 6. I just have a question. It says complainant is an appraisal company. Is it an appraisal management company?
Yes, sir. It's my understanding it's an AMC.
Okay, that's okay. You've answered my question. All right, you've all heard number 6 and council's recommendation. Any motions,
I have a question.
discussion? Go ahead.
You refer to ethics violations a couple of times, but would you be more specific? What are the ethics violations?
It would come in 2 forms. Keeping it simple, failing to maintain the work file, as it states in the work file rule from lines 266 up to line 298, is that violation of the work file rule is also a violation of the ethics rule. So that is one. In addition, not disclosing the work on the prior report until delivery to the client should also be seen by this commission as an additional ethics rule violation.
It's my understanding that the work file violation is only an ethics violation if it was intentional. It is a violation of the record-keeping rule, that's for sure. Okay. Do we know if it was intentional?
We don't, sir, which is why I urge this commission to view the work file rule simply as his failure to maintain the work file, and then to view the ethics rule as failing to notify the client until the delivery of the report, that a prior report wasn't disclosed.
Any further discussion? I have a question, please, where it says it appears that the entire work file was not produced. Can we assume that some of the work file was then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone wish to make a motion? Any further discussion on this? It doesn't look like the 15-hour sales comparison. Just for sake of discussion, that needs to be 14 hours, and that's no problem. Let's just, we'll say that's typo. Yes, sir?
Well, that goes back to we don't have 14-hour sales comparison courses.
Oh, okay.
Or 15 hours.
But we don't have a, yeah, we don't have a 15, so we don't have a 14 either. Okay. And someone make a motion on number 6.
Move to accept.
Motion's been made to accept council's recommendation. Do I hear a second? Motion's going to fail by lack of a second, but we can't do the 15 hours because it doesn't exist. So,
I make the motion that we accept it as is, except that we change the sales comparison to a 30-hour.
30, so 15 hours, recommendation 15 hours continuing education highest and best use, 30 hours continuing education sales comparison approach. Do I hear a and a $1,000 penalty. Do I hear a second? And seconded. Any further discussion on that now?
One thing I would throw out is a thought, since we're increasing the class from a 15 to 30, is drop the civil penalty, because that's going to be additional time and money.
Okay.
And they don't have a prior disciplinary record as well.
All right, but the motion's been made and seconded to accept council's recommendation, and that includes the $1,000 penalty. So let's vote on that. Motion's been made and seconded to accept council's recommendation. All those in favor of council's recommendation say aye.
With the 30-hour change, is that correct?
Yeah, with the 30-hour, no, just like it is. Yeah, with the 30-hour change, but with the $1,000 penalty. Yes, sir.
Okay, I vote aye.
Okay, all those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, the motion fails. Now let's hear a motion from the commission.
Guess it's back to me again.
This is. Mr. Garrison.
I would make a similar motion, 15 hours of highest and best use, 30 hours of sales comparison,
And eliminate the $1,000
and
penalty.
eliminate the
Okay.
$1,000 penalty.
You've heard the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been made and second to have 15 hours highest and best use, 30 hours sales comparison, and eliminate the monetary penalty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries as amended. Number 7.
Number 7 is another complaint received via an AMC whose client was the mortgage company. In addition, there was prior disciplinary action. And for the record, this is case ending in 0521. The prior disciplinary action was a letter of warning regarding report writing and reconciliation requirements, as well as a 2014 consent order with a $1,000 civil penalty. So that was roughly a year after the letter of warning. In addition to the $1,000 civil penalty, there was a 30-hour basic appraisal procedures course and 15-hour residential report writing course required. This licensee has been licensed for approximately 20 years. The substance of the complaint is that the AMC feels that the respondent did not use the best comps and made unnecessary adjustments. The complainant also alleged specific violations of USPAP, which this commission is not going to see in the vast majority of the complaints. As stated on the top of page 10, some of these were allegedly violations of the ethics rule, the competency rule, scope of work rule, and standard rules 1.1, 1.2, 1.4, 2.1, 2.2, and various subdivisions thereof. Respondent did not believe that the complaint offered any supporting documentation to these allegations. The appraiser was also asked to review additional sales. However, after reviewing the additional sales and interviewing the listing agents, the appraiser did not feel it was representative to use those prior sales and chose not to include them in the report. Respondent believes the effort to include this sale as a comparable was an effort to increase the appraiser's valuation of the home. Respondent, at the end of the day, stands by his appraisal due to his on-site visitation of the home and consideration of potential comparables. Expert review was done on this case, and the expert concluded that the appraisal report was credible. It had a credible analysis, and that no USPAP violations were noted. Regarding the specific issue of the sales comparisons, the reviewer stated, the comparables are reasonably similar and sold within 4 months to about a year of appraisal. The adjustments appear reasonable and reflective of major differences in the property characteristics. Accordingly, counsel recommends dismissal on this case.
All right, you've heard number 7. You've heard the complaint. You've heard counsel's recommendation. Any motions from the commission?
Move to accept the council's recommendation.
Second.
Motion been made and second to approve council's recommendation on number 7. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Excuse, how many more of these we have?
We have one more, sir, that will take some consideration by the commission, certainly, and then 2 rehearings.
Okay. Let's take a little break. We're going to take about a 10-minute break, if that's all right with everybody. Good job. All right, we're going to resume with, call the meeting back to order and resume with continuation of the legal. Number 8, is that what it is?
Yes, sir. The 8th case, ending in number 1631. This matter is a little bit more complicated and complex, and I will be asking the commission to consider various options. The complainant alleges that the respondent is intentionally driving down sales prices in the subject area. That is the complaint. Accordingly, there's 2 reports here that are in issue. One is one of the appraisals that was done for the complainant, and another one is a previous report that the respondent drafted. Report 1 is dated 9/14/2018, and Report 2 is dated 9/21/2018. So accordingly, the expert reviewer had to conduct 2 reviews. Report 1 was 4 pages, and Report 2 was for a 1-unit residential field review report for Fannie Mae containing 10 pages. On the Fannie Mae form. The expert reviewer found that without more information, it is difficult to determine if the respondent has a bias towards the subject properties because there's only 2 assignments that could be reviewed. The market value in one of the 2 appraisals was $225,000, and the market value opinion of the other appraisal was $215,000. This is a difference of opinion of 4.5%. Our expert concluded that many users of appraisal service consider a 5% variance, a difference of value opinion, to be an acceptable range. The respondent submitted a narrative response with supporting documentation. The respondent contends that they have been appraising property for lenders for approximately 30 years, and during that time has never been accused of producing a fraudulent report, nor intentionally deflating or inflating property values. The expert reviewer found that the reports are generally complete, but that there were several minor reporting errors and some incorrect data information. The review reports generally appeared to have relevant data and appropriate appraisal review methods and techniques followed. And the overall conclusion from the expert was that the reports generally appear appropriate and credible. Now, the Commission should take the findings of the expert into consideration, but ultimately the Commission is the arbiter of what is and what is not a violation. Several potential violations were found by the expert reviewer. First is that the use of the extraordinary assumption might have affected the assignment results was not included. The extraordinary assumption listed in Section 2 was not adequate to perform the extension, and it did not conclude what items were credible. There were significant GLA reporting errors in the sale comparison approach. The report stated that the facts concerning the subject property were taken from tax records, MLS, and the appraisal being reviewed. The report does not define what is meant by the facts. Accordingly, the scope of work rule, Rule 3-1, 3-2, 4-1, 4-2, including their subparts, also has not been complied with. In addition, use of a sale after the effective date of the appraisal report, which is comparable sale 5, that sale closed after the effective date of the appraisal. Yet the review report's market value opinion used the same data, and it didn't adjust that data to the date after the sales closed. Accordingly, Rule 1-1, subsection A, B, and C, Rule 1-2, subsection E, Roman numeral 2, Rule 2-1, subsections A and B, Rule 2-2, subsection A, Roman numeral 8, were not complied with. The report also has a signed certification. However, it does not contain required information. There's no statement about having performed prior services, the previous 3 years. Accordingly, this would be a violation of Standard Rule 4-3. The cost and income approaches were not included, and there was no statement as to why these were not included. The cost and income approaches were not made, and no statement was made as to whether or not the cost or income approach were considered. Exclusion of the cost and income approach must be explained, as one is required to follow Standard 1 and 2 when a new market value is developed. Accordingly, Standard Rule 1-1, Standard Rule 1-4, 2-1, and 2-2 were not complied with. Finally, the September 14th report does not state the intended use or the purpose of the review. It does not state or have a scope of work. Accordingly, there are multiple potential violations on that, including the scope of work rule, 3-2, 3-2G specifically, as well as Rule 4-2. The Commission should consider at a bare minimum a letter of warning in this case.
All right, you've heard complaint number 8, and you've heard council's recommendation. Anyone wish to make a motion? Any discussion on this? Bless you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I need some clarification between Report 1 and Report 2. These were done by 2 different individuals. Report 1 is the complaint.
Both reports were done by the respondent. One report was done for the complainant.
And it was a regular appraisal.
I would have to review the case file, but at the end of the day, we only had 2 reports that were drafted by the respondent to look at to see whether or not the respondent was inflating or deflating prices.
Report 1 is a desk review.
Report 1 is a desk review. I see that, but I'm still confused.
Report 1 was a desk review. Report 2 is a 1-unit residential appraisal field review.
On the same property? That's a question. Am I the only one confused?
No, it says 2 different properties.
It's 2 different
two
properties,
different.
sir. It's 2 different properties.
I have a question, please. It says the expert reviewer found that without a whole lot more information, it was difficult to determine. I guess I want to stop right there. Did he get the extra information?
He did not. All we had were the 2 reports drafted by the respondent.
So the reviewer never got everything that he needed to make a decision.
We had the complaint. It boils down to whether or not this would be something we would want to send out for additional information. If the commission is concerned that prices are being deflated, here we had the complaint, which was one property, but we also had the virtue of an ancillary report from the same subject area, the same, near the same neighborhood.
That's what you're talking about, was a 4 to 5% difference in value on.
The differences were under 5%.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were done within a week or so, 2 weeks of each other. It would be possible to pull more reports from this appraiser if that is a route that this commission wants to go down. Here, it's simply the complaint that's before us, but we have the luxury of having an additional report.
Sure. Further discussion?
No, it says the use of a sale after the effective date. It was used as sale 5. Was it listed as a closed sale, or do we know if that was, identified as a? It's easy to look back after the closed date, but it may have closed after the report was submitted. I mean, it could have been identified as a pending listing, or.
I'm not aware of the answer to that question, sir.
I see no evidence of proven bias, so I see no reason to get additional reports. For me, that question is answered that they didn't prove it. Therefore, hold this appraiser accountable for any bias because I don't see any that's been proven. Now, it's the other stuff, that we might want to consider.
Roxanne, and you correct me if I'm wrong, and you too, the other stuff, quote unquote, can we put that in this letter of warning? I mean, the only reason I'm saying that is this is an individual who's had their license since 1991, which is a day or two ago, and has had done nothing, has had never appeared in front of us before, and to me, I just got to think that means a little something. So can we put those other things in that letter of warning?
Yes, so the letter that Keith and legal counsel will put together can be an instructional piece as well, listing these items. Yes.
Yeah, one thing on the appraisal review, you can't really understand the review unless you have the appraisal report in which is being reviewed.
I guess my question is, there were 2 different properties that were assessed by the same person, but who is, and maybe we don't, it's not proper to ask this, but why was, one party was complaining about two different properties? How did that?
The complaint started as one property, sir. And we had the virtue of having another report contemporaneous in time and location. The respondent does volume in this area.
So you just use it for basically a comparison?
The expert did, sir.
Yeah, that's what okay, yeah, it was used as, okay.
Did they have the report that was reviewed?
See, that's what I'm thinking about. Thank you, man. That's what I was thinking about. That it didn't have the whole information. I don't see how you can make a decision. I don't see how he could make a decision. Don't see how we could make a decision if he doesn't have all the documentation.
Simply limited to 4 pages and 10 pages, sir. That's what was obtained.
The comment of the absence of an extraordinary assumption, is that related to the first report, which is a desktop? Thank you so much.
Yes, that was for report 1.
So report 1 is a desktop, which means the appraiser did not go to the property, did not inspect it, but also did not use an extraordinary assumption in their desktop report. Am I understanding that correctly?
One moment.
While you're looking, I would assume that if you're doing a desktop, you did not do an inspection of the property, so that would need an extraordinary assumption. And the reviewer found that no extraordinary assumption was mentioned. Trying to understand it.
My understanding
Is that what you understand?
It was stated, but it was not developed.
Yeah.
It was not adequately stated to perform the extension. That more work would have had to been done on it, but yet was not done.
It says the facts concerning the subject property were taken from tax records, MLS, and the appraisal being reviewed. So maybe they were implying extraordinary assumption with that.
I think the letter of warning is appropriate. I don't know. You want me to make the motion to accept? I make the motion we accept council's recommendation for a letter of warning. As long as it's specific, the letter of warning would be specific to these items.
Question, can I ask a question about that? How long does a letter of warning stay in a file? Forever?
Not really discipline per se, and we're going to address it. We've got it in our agenda to talk about this. This commission, years and years, maybe decades ago, decided that it was part of the registry. So we add it. It stays forever. It's part of their license file with us. So we can always refer back and see the letter itself and the fact that 1 or 2 were issued.
And who has access to that file? I mean, anyone or any of the public?
Someone does a public records request as a Tennessee resident, they would be able to see it, but it's not real discipline, I think, Council. Yeah.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to accept letter of warning. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Number 9.
Number 9 is a represent, sir, case ending in 6501. This is the 3rd time this case has come before the commission. This case has been sent to 3 different expert reviewers. Due to an error at the last commission meeting, a certain number of CE hours were stated on the record in error, and that was what was approved by the commission. Now, before that, in July, 15 hours and 14 hours, what was stated as the sanction on the record for a consent order, and that's what the commission approved. So it's council's position today that what you approved in October was simply administrative error based on the wrong number of hours. So what council has done, we've negotiated a settlement with the respondent and the respondent's attorney to the original July sanction requiring 15 hours and 14 hours of continuing education. Today would adopt that. The case would be concluded. There would be a consent order, and respondent would have to do these hours in addition to his CE.
And at this point, the respondent has said they have agreed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You don't need to read, well, you might want to read the number into. Nine.
Accordingly, council recommends that the commission adopt the signed proposed consent order that complies with your initial July determination of a consent order requiring a 15-hour USPAP course as well as a 14-hour writing course.
All right, I don't believe you read the number. You might want to do that just for clarification.
This is case 2017-07-6501.
All right. Recommendation or a motion from the commission?
Question first. The October 18 decision was for conditional dismissal, whereas the July decision was for a consent order. I don't know why we reduced that to a conditional dismissal. I don't remember it. But it seems to me that if we go back to the July decision to a consent order rather than a conditional dismissal, that would be a more of a detriment to the respondent. Am I reading that correctly?
That's part of the administrative error, sir. It was never supposed to be a conditional dismissal at any point. However,
Okay, good. Thank you.
That's how it was presented in October.
Thank you for that
We've got
clarification.
that cleared up.
Thank you.
We have a motion. Do we have a motion on the floor?
I'll make it.
Okay,
I move to accept council's recommendation.
all right.
Second.
Motion been made and second to accept council's recommendation. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 10?
thank you. I yield to Erica Smith.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, good job.
Yeah, good job.
Good morning.
Hello.
Okay. So number 10 is 2017-035-671, and this is a represent. The commission had decided originally to assess, you guys voted on a consent order with continuing education only as part of the discipline. And once the respondent received that consent order, the respondent called council, and the expert's findings of what violations they thought that they found were discussed at length between council and respondent. And after a review of the file is very voluminous. After a review of the file, council discovered that the expert only only took into consideration the original appraisal report that was submitted to the complainant, who was a bank, and thinks that was on July 1st, 2016, and between July 1st and July 7th of 2016, the complainant bank sent many detailed requests for revisions and explanations of adjustments, explanations of why comps were used, probably 2 to 3 pages of questions and requested revisions between those 6 days. So the respondent actually provided a report. The original report was June 30th, and then provided a revised report on July 1st, July 5th, and then the final report with addenda was submitted on July 7th. So the expert did not take into consideration those. The discussions by letter between the complainant and the respondent, where the respondent addressed all of these concerns that were in the complaint. So basically the respondent, when when the respondent talked to council, first said that they already took the continuing education. As soon as they got that consent order, they wanted to take the education classes. So those were taken within probably 30 days of the receipt of the consent order, and the respondent provided proof that those classes were taken. And the respondent just asked that because they've been licensed for 18 years without any complaint, that the commission would reconsider assessing a private discipline instead of the consent order, which would be public.
Stated something I'm totally unaware of, a private
So
consent.
a letter of warning,
Okay.
since they
But they've already taken the classes.
Yeah, they took the classes.
And we have documentation of that.
Yes,
Okay.
above and beyond what's required. So
Okay.
they're not even asking that it be included in the normal continuing education requirements. This would be above and beyond. And then I would issue a letter of warning instead of a consent order stating the violations the expert felt that they found, because those weren't in the original report. And then we wouldn't mention anything about the continuing education in the letter of warning, I don't think. Roxana, do we normally do that?
Not if the commission's okay with.
We could if you wanted to, but really the respondent was just concerned that they've been doing this for a long time, they've never had any issues, and they just asked for that reconsideration, and I thought that was fair.
All right, you've heard complaint number 10. What's the pleasure of the commission?
Again, I go back to my previous question. You say that it wouldn't be public, but what you just, in the previous case we looked at, a letter of warning is in that person's file and can be reviewed at any time by anyone?
Yeah, that's correct. I was going to correct this earlier, but so just so the commission is aware, a letter of warning is considered discipline, but it's private discipline. So when you issue a letter of warning, it won't show up on the disciplinary action report or anything.
But it is in your file.
But it is in your file.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess it's just the technical terms that confuse me, and thank you for explaining
It's
that.
discipline, but private.
Even though it can be reviewed by the public.
It wouldn't, a public records request, we wouldn't be able to provide it even if we got that, right?
Yes. So if someone were to submit a public records request asking for an individual's license file and wanting to know their disciplinary history, we would be able to give them a copy of the letter of warning.
We would be?
Yes.
We would be?
Yes.
Okay.
Just as you would be able to give a copy of a consent order or any of those kind of things. Those would not fall into the exemptions under the Open Records Act.
But I understand it's sort of a lower level of,
Yes, so in the
disciplinary
discipline
action.
hierarchy,
Gotcha.
a letter of warning is
Thank you.
right there.
Those of us who are not lawyers appreciate those explanations of
Thank you.
terminology. Thank you.
Brentwood?
Yes, I have a question and a comment. The question is, this has not already been made public. That's a question.
Oh, no, the respondent did not sign the consent order, so nothing, it would be
okay.
voided.
Oh, okay. Then my comment is, I'm all for helping people out, move down the road without a lot of issues on their record. However, to the commission, I'm just asking the question, would this be setting a precedent we don't want to set? In other words, changing decisions afterwards, then everybody comes out of the woodwork wanting the same thing.
I don't have a problem with changing opinions with new information.
When we sent the first consent order, they did everything we asked them to do. That's correct?
Yes,
I guess why don't we just dismiss this?
we can do that as well. I guess the conditional-
You got an individual who's never had anything done against them, and as soon as they got the consent order, they did exactly what they were supposed to do, which is rare. And go ahead, I'm sorry.
Anna just brought this to my attention. I think it's worth noting that when this was presented, the expedited process, the conditional, that wasn't being used. It wasn't available. So if I presented this today, I would be presenting it with that recommendation, just because they have no disciplinary history.
All right. Any further discussion? Anyone wish to make a motion? Council's recommendation is to issue a letter of warning.
Move we dismiss.
Second.
Motion been made and second to dismiss this case. Any further discussion? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
That's it. Okay. Thank you very much, Legal. We appreciate all you've done for us. Appreciate the way you presented it to us. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the education, too. I appreciate that.
Roxanne, are you going to take the rules making?
Actually, we're blessed to have Anna here. She is going to walk everyone through it, and I do want to let the commission know we do have a member from the public kind of wanting to address the commission regarding the change in the qualified education on these rules, so I don't know if we want to hear from him first or let Anna explain and let you go over them, however you prefer. He's been here the whole time.
I think we ought to start just so that we know what we're talking about. Perfect. Anna, if you would go ahead, please. If that's the play, could that be all right with the commission?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's on page 41. I apologize.
Okay, so this is a red line version of the updated rules following the rulemaking hearing that we had in October. So I went back and if you look on, I suppose it would be page 43 is where the red line begins. And so what I did was for 1255.01.051B, we removed the word classroom, and then I added a number 2. So it would say courses B1, little I, 2I, 3I may be taken via distance education, and those were the courses that the commission specifically stated at the meeting last time that you would allow to be taken online or in a synchronous environment. So that's how we changed this rule, and then you'll see that we just renumbered those to account for the new addition. And then the same change was made to 1255-01-.071B with the removal of the word classroom and then adding the number 2 to highlight the specific courses that Commission said may be taken via distance education, and you'll see the renumbering as well. And the same goes for 1255-01-.081B, removal of the word classroom from B1, and an addition of number 2 to allow the courses specifically provided by the Commission to be taken via distance education. And then the renumber. And you'll see for Rule 1255-01-.123, this is a change from the 75-hour courses. We added in the language that no more than 50% of the courses may be taken via distance. Rule 1255-01-.127, you'll see we removed the words classroom twice in A and C, just for consistency purposes. And then if you'll look on the next page, you'll see Rule 1255-01-.127H states that a registered trainee may complete no more than one half of the individual's required continuing education courses via distance education. And Rule 1255-01-.1210G, I amended that to change to 2019 to reflect the new year, and I have reduced the 7-hour course requirement to 4 hours. And I added the sentence at the very end that this course may be completed via distance education. Next amendments you'll see are at Rule 1255-04-.011. We removed the word instruction just so it says education courses. And then the last one you'll see is 1255-04-.018. It says the licensee or certificate holder may complete no more than one half of the individual's required continuing education credits via distance education. I believe that addresses all of the changes that we had following the October meeting's rulemaking hearing.
All right. So the commission has heard what council anticipates doing. Roxanne, I don't know who the individual is. You want to address the commission, sir? Please tell us your name.
Yes. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Heath Shamblin. I think we might try to keep this brief. I'm not really sure. I get a little bit nervous, so I wasn't really able to focus exactly on what you're saying, so it may apply to what I'm going to tell you, but just a little bit really quick about my situation. I'm from Cleveland, Tennessee. I spent from June 27th, I guess late July of 2018 in Michigan. During my time there, we had decided toward the end that we were for sure going to move back to Tennessee. At that time as well, I decided that I wanted to get into the field of evaluation. So what I did at that time was assess my options as far as education. And first source was the State of Tennessee's website. So during that time, I think that's what kind of we're going over, is that the State of Tennessee's website did not explicitly state online courses were not accepted, although people, if they've been involved for some time. And I'm referring specifically to qualifying education to receive your trainee's license. So the first 75. While I was up there, still under the impression that these online courses would count for me, I took the classes, and there are multiple avenues on the Appraisal Institute's website where you can find. I didn't do my best due diligence in finding that they say double check with the state. You know, we have a list of courses that states will accept. I did not see that the way that I went. I just went straight to online education, going off the fact that it was not stated explicitly on the state's website at that online courses were not accepted. So I took the courses, passed my exams, took them in Michigan. Probably would be the hardest part of the whole ordeal, is finding someone who would take you on as liability. So I found someone. He was super generous, and the main reason that he took me on was predicated on the fact that I had my qualifying education done and that I would be able to apply and get my trainee license. So we both found out that my education is not going to count, but he was generous enough to now I'm planning on taking my qualifying education again this June here in Nashville. But like I said, he's keeping me on, and we're going to continue. But so I guess all that's to say that, you know, this rule, it's just the most basic of education to get into the field. And because of it not being I don't want to blame it entirely on that, because I could have done better to find out what exactly was accepted. But I was under the impression coming down here that everything was done that needed to be done. And now I'm going to be set back a year because I completed my.
You have a trainee's license in Michigan?
No.
Okay.
So I took the courses expecting to, when I moved down, find someone, hopefully, that would take me in. So that would be the hardest part. So found someone, and then we moved forward as far as filling out the application for a trainee license. Found out that I couldn't, in fact, use those courses. So I was talking to Mr. Hicks, and I didn't want to ask a favor, but I would suggest that you do. I think it would be good to accept online education for the most basic. Like Mr. Hicks, I have a baby due, first one due in March. So
coincidence.
Add that to
Appraiser's got nothing better to do.
So due in March, and so my time is slipping away as far as getting this not necessarily resolved, but just wanted to bring that to the commission's attention that it's a situation where I think that it would be good to accept these classes, considering it is the most.
What classes? did you take online?
Basic appraisal principles,
Mhm.
procedures,
Mhm.
USPAP, and the supervisory appraiser.
Right.
All of them.
Courses that were approved out of state could be accepted by Tennessee, is that not correct? Okay.
What did we vote on last time to change, to accept? Sound like those courses there is the ones we voted to accept.
It is, but I have a question because the red line states that no more than 50% can be taken via distance education. But Jim, at the last meeting, you made the motion for these courses to be able to be taken online. Was that your intent, or was your intent to make a motion to allow 100% of the initial hours for able to be taken online?
Yeah, that's continuing ed, not qualifying ed.
Okay.
On page 11, yeah.
My motion was only for those specific courses, but still, and although we approved it, we didn't approve it. Still got to have a public hearing, so we still got to go through that. Yeah.
So the courses that you're referring to, which are the ones spelled out for the qualified education, that is what this commission at the end of the October meeting ended up voting on, to have it be online. So it will be. It's a timing thing, and so I hear your pain. We get it on the phone every day, so I do get that piece. So we're not going to a percentage, but the commission voted on specific courses, and all these would be able to be taken online or in person, but online. And then it would be the additional courses that they can pick and choose that they'd have to do in person.
So when will this become applicable?
Not for a while until, so the rulemaking hearing, we have to have that, and then it has to go through the Government Joint Operations Committee. So we're looking at least probably around 8 months out, a while.
All right. Anything else?
That's I mean, like I said, I wasn't coming here to try to get you to say, hey, these are going to count or anything like that, but, and now I found out.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We need to vote on a rulemaking.
Yes.
All right, everyone is familiar with what Anna has read to us. Is there any questions about?
Yeah, I just, Michelle asked the question, and I'm still wanting to be sure I understand. The 50%, no more than 50%, only applies to CE. Is that correct?
Yes, just continued education.
Yes.
Okay. I'm reading, I guess, and maybe I'm just missing where it starts, the section starts, because I'm reading at the bottom of page 47. And it says, before registration, an applicant for trainee registration shall complete 75 hours of courses, no more than 50% via distance education.
It's 1255-1-12.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
It needs to be changed.
What page?
Page 7 on the hard copy.
7 on the hard copy. Again, Anna, let me ask you this: if it's applicable the way it's written, that too is going to take 8 months or so.
Or
For this, the way it's written, to become policy. Okay, so we still got to.
And another question? Before I ask it, I need.
Not loose.
You're right.
The way I had interpreted it in reading it.
That's just making it consistent with continuing education
Right.
for
Trainee and for the regular
Right,
person.
yeah.
That's correct.
And my other question is, you have 75 hours, and my motion was for 79 hours, including the appraiser trainee.
But the supervisor course is at the back. I
Right,
think it
so
was
it's in a
separate.
separate section.
And it can be taken, we've,
Yes.
that's somewhere in there.
Yes.
Yes.
All right,
So
good.
that,
Thank you.
if you look on
It's on page 49.
Thank you.
49,
Thank
that
you.
added sentence, and I believe, Commissioner Alexander, to answer your question, no more than 50%. With this change, it would be 50% to add those courses on there if you were to look at the amount that we're allowing online. So I think that's why that language has changed.
For, what is it, for certified residential, 150 hours?
So the 75
Is, right.
50%.
would count.
50%,
Okay,
right.
okay, I got you.
All right, everyone now, any further discussion?
I have one question related to education. So currently, we do not have any education approved for the supervisory hours. So that, if this goes through, then we would need new education approved. Right now, all we have is 7 hours, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
From,
Once the
Director.
rules are voted on and agreed to in a formal public hearing, then we will proceed with informing all of the course providers, those that offer these courses in particular, of the change. But given we've gone back and forth, you hate to have them create a course that's not going to go through.
Right.
I've got a question too. So in terms of reciprocating licenses, what if the gentleman applied for a trainee's license in Michigan? Would we accept that transfer of a?
So he'd be applying with all his education and a license in another state and credentials and his exam and everything at that point. If they take it online and are licensed in another state, we do not make them take it in person, if that's your question. Yeah, I mean, they've just got to meet the requirements. And the AQB allows it, which is what we kept going to. By not allowing anything online, it's an undue hardship.
Right, okay.
And
That's for the licenses only, not for
He'd have to be
train-
licensed, that's correct.
That includes the trainee's license?
No, the trainee
Okay.
is a person applying within
Right.
Tennessee for education in Tennessee. If somebody is licensed in another state, they're coming with their credentials from that state, the exam, all of it. And so we
Okay.
review the whole thing.
that helps. And you keep track on, what courses are taken in live and which ones are taken online?
If they're coming
to
in
see?
licensed from another state,
I
it
mean,
wouldn't
just
be.
for anybody, okay?
Oh,
In
yeah.
terms of continuing
Yes.
education,
Yes.
okay? So
Yes.
you make sure they're not over that 50% limit.
So hold on. So if they're coming with a license, let's say from North Carolina, and they were able to do their qualified education in North Carolina, and part of that was online, we would not send them back to do it in person.
I understand
There.
that. I guess I was
Okay.
talking more about the continuing education.
Same thing with continuing education. Many states allow 100%, and if they're licensed in another state, we would accept that. We would not make them do it in person. But if they're licensed and their only license is Tennessee and they're in Tennessee, it would be the 50%.
And you keep track of that, okay? How many they've taken, how many hours were taken live and how many are online? Okay, thank you.
All right, going back, we're voting on the notice of rulemaking hearing on the red line. All right, on the adjustments or the corrections that have been made. Any further discussion? Ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
We need a motion.
But you presented the motion.
Oh, no.
Okay, I'm sorry. My error. I apologize. All
Oh,
right,
so moved.
okay.
We accept.
Moved and second. Let's vote again. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for my correction. All right. Roxanna, I'm not familiar with the next section on the discussion of the history.
Absolutely. Okay. So this actually comes at a good time with the number of cases that we had at this, in this particular meeting. We brought up at the October meeting, and we've addressed it at least once or twice, the discipline that we consider letters of warning. And we've said, because the commission has considered letters of warning, letters of caution, letters of instruction as information needs to be added on the registry, we do so. And at the October meeting, we discussed readdressing that and maybe deciding as a commission if that needs to be added to the registry as discipline. So that's why it's coming
If
back.
letters of warning need to be added?
Correct.
Okay. And
They have been.
then do they accept a letters of warning as considered to be discipline?
I think you were asked a question.
No,
Yes,
I got it.
yeah.
It took me a minute to process it.
Go ahead and pull the mic. Thank you.
So currently, the way they're being reported as an other on the National Registry, they would not show up to the public, but another state would be able to see it should somebody go to another state via reciprocity or temporary practice. They would see that they had an other on there and they would contact.
We've brought it up a couple times to decide, does the commission want to not report these any longer? And that's simply the reason why, now that it's the beginning of the year, we just decided it'd be a good time whenever to discuss it if you want to make a change. If you don't, we're continuing business as usual. But in October, we addressed that. We said, why do we keep reporting this? And so this would be the time to, if you decide to change it. If not, we continue business as usual.
We'll open the floor for discussion on the letters of warning, whether we want to continue to report them or not. Somebody state your feelings.
So one additional thing I will add is the policy statements require anything that's considered discipline to be reported.
So, I guess I'm a bit fuzzy there. Do we have two letters of warning? One is discipline and one is non-discipline? We have one and it's discipline. Okay. So we have to report that.
Currently, but you
Okay.
could change the way the letter's warning to explain to the receiver.
Does that require a policy change, or we can just decide?
Bring in the big gun. Do we have a letter of, and I don't want to say, do we have a letter of correction or a letter of improvement or
Instruction is more
letter of
what different
instruction?
programs refer
Okay.
to.
Okay, we
do.
have,
We
we
can.
have a letter of warning and a
little
letter
bit.
of instruction?
We could. I
We-
think
We do not, though.
we have not sent
Okay.
letters of instruction.
Okay.
So, and that would just be that, and exactly as Jenny stated, I think it's important that the letter clearly point out it's not discipline.
Yes.
A letter of instruction would not be discipline.
We've never viewed a letter of instruction as discipline, that's correct.
Okay, have we viewed a letter of instruction as a letter of warning?
No, they're two different
Okay,
vehicles.
okay.
Yes. So we can change the letter of warning to be stated in it that it is not considered discipline.
Commission can make that decision
Yes.
without policy change.
No, it doesn't have to be a policy change.
Thank you.
Okay. Open the floor for discussion.
What would be the advantages and disadvantages in doing so? I'll ask my fellow commissioners that. What do you see the advantages and disadvantages?
I'll make an attempt in my mind what I think it is. If it's non-disciplinary, then we're given the appraiser opportunity to improve themselves without having to worry or fear that they've been disciplined. And also, I would assume that every year that I have to redo my E&O insurance, I have to answer a question, have I been disciplined?
Right.
And if the state officially does not recognize a letter of warning as disciplinary, then I would not have to, and it wouldn't be on their records either.
Well, I guess that gets back to the question, is it a letter of instruction or a letter of warning? A letter of instruction would be, need for improvement, but not necessarily you did anything that was in violation of the rules. Whereas a letter of warning, I assume, is some kind of mild form compared to, fines and loss of licensure and so forth. but there was obviously some problem that needs to be addressed, and it is a warning. Don't do this again. I'm trying to think of, looking at
So
that instruction, or is it punishment when you do that?
I think you could, even though Ms. Camusio just let me know, this commission has typically not done letters of instruction before. We could keep the letter of warning as is, and it would still be considered discipline. But if you were reviewing a case and you decide that you do not want it to be counted as formal discipline, you could recommend a letter of instruction. We could introduce that piece instead and just have both of them work as the same, or you can have just the letter of warning, which would be considered non-discipline. So when we, in other programs, like it would be like a letter of instruction, a letter of warning, and then it goes up and so forth. So it's up to you and your discretion what you would like to do on that matter.
Can we add another letter? letter of improvement.
So that would be like a letter of instruction would be similar to that.
Okay.
What's the pleasure of the commission?
I kind of like the idea of having the letter of instruction as a non-punitive sort of thing, but the letter of warning is a very mild kind of discipline, but it is still considered to be a discipline. Now, you brought up a very practical situation where that could be a problem.
But it would be specific. If you got a letter of warning, that's discipline.
Yes.
If you got a letter of instruction, that's not discipline.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
But I mean, I was coming back to the insurance issue. How big of a problem is that for?
Sometimes too, with new clients, you have to disclose that as well. So outside of the area as well.
I'm not an appraiser, so I don't really have a dog in this race, so to speak. So I'll leave it up to you folks.
I think repeatedly when this has come up, one of the concerns that commission members have voiced, and possibly even those that aren't here, is, why do we put this on the, why do we add this if it really isn't discipline? They didn't have a punitive situation. They didn't have courses they had to take, and the answer was because the commission has decided a letter of warning is discipline. So unless we change that decision and maybe even the wording, we could eliminate that type of letter and go with instruction, and that would be that. Or leave it as it is, because right now we are reporting that letter, because it clearly on it says it is internal discipline.
We could leave the letter of warning in place how it stands, but the commission can start to use a letter of instruction,
Yes, and
which
that's
is in place that is non-disciplinary.
that you all just haven't used, yes. And in
Okay.
that case, there's really no change then to what we do. Our practice would continue exactly as is, because we are reporting the letters of discipline.
Right? So it really doesn't require us to vote on that then.
Not at all.
If our desire is to leave it like it is.
Yes, but I believe when that decision was made, none of you all were on the commission, so it keeps coming up, which
Sure.
which probably is a good reason. Just it
All right,
sounds like you all are comfortable with still reporting it and it impacting our appraisers, however it impacts them.
But are we also, kind of making a suggestion that we come up with a new document, a letter of instruction, which I'm assuming has not existed before in this commission?
Not in this commission, but letters of instruction are used in some of our other programs. So we wouldn't be creating a completely new document.
Want to put that in form of a motion, Doc?
Yes, I would move that we keep the letter of warning the same and its interpretation the same, but we introduce a new type of document, a letter of instruction, which has no punitive characteristics, but is meant to help the appraiser avoid getting him or herself or themselves in trouble.
All right, motion been made. Do I hear a second? Second. Motion been made and second. Any further discussion on the matter? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
You, okay,
Now, how long will the director's report take?
not long at all.
Go ahead.
Do we want to break? Let's look at the time. Oh, 12:30. Okay. So you have on page 53, this is our financial standing, not a big change. It's not the end of the year, so that's the main reason I did say not a long period of time. Although we can see 3 months, definitely the last two, where we've ended up in the red. These last few months, we've had bigger than normal costbacks for not only administrative type costbacks, but our computer system and upgrades. So I don't want the commission to be nervous when we look at the November 2018 closing in the red of 13,519. That isn't something that we're used to seeing it. I've questioned it, but I do know that there's just some additional fees for the system that we have and different upgrades. So I'm expecting that to level off a little bit again. So that is the financial piece. December 6th, we had the reduction in fees. It impacts the renewals. For those of you that are licensed, your renewals are going down by $25. And Heidi will correct me if I'm missing a number somewhere, but that's the impact that you'll see. But for our newly licensed individuals, the $125 initial license, it's one of the several categories, that's going away. And then also the same $25 reduction that you all are seeing. So theirs will go down by $130. So we will start feeling that more so at the end of December. But at least now the big expenses for the costbacks have been incurred. So we should still be okay.
When you say at the end of December, you mean December 19?
December 2018, the fees went into effect, the reduction.
So we'll see it next year?
Yes, you'll start seeing it
this
as of
year,
next
okay,
month.
this year,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
The next round of financials that we review, we're going to see revenue go down slightly because of those. But again,
That's intentional?
yes, we
Okay.
debated, if you recall, with
Right.
our audit and the sunset
Right.
hearing, we needed to drop some fees. So yes. The next two pages are complaint report, and I wanted just to give you, we're going to be able to show you this moving forward. It's a redacted version, but this is all your open complaints. The appraisers are on the first page, and I believe it's 22 cases, if I'm not mistaken. And then our AMC companies have 5 open cases, and that is as of January 8th when I ran this report. It gives you a good visual of kind of the aging process of all the cases. So I want to introduce these just so now that our system has finally established some good reports that we can pull ourselves, you'll be looking at these. And most of these, if not all of them, these open cases, you heard all 10 of those today, and the previous ones are already in the pipeline.
But it says follow-up, what does that mean?
Give me one of the cases so I can...
Oh, it's on all of them, at the top of the page, where it has descriptions of what's going on. It says follow-up.
Oh,
It's the attorney.
That's the attorney's name.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, so you've got Erica Smith and
Sure.
then Keith that did most of ours. McCarthy's on here. So that tells us which legal counsel has that case. Sounds good? Okay, so that is really what I have. I wanted to cover one important thing before we drift off into the meeting for the financial institutions that's being held tomorrow. We can talk about that. But one item that does need to be voted on is the next Arrow meeting. That is the last item on this iPad, so if you want to skip to it, it is 104 of 104 documents. This is the meeting, spring meeting, to be held in Denver, May 3rd through the 5th. This would be a good time, you brought it, for us to vote on who will be attending so we can put through the justification memo and proceed.
What's the date?
It is the May 3rd through the 5th.
All right. I'd like to go to this one. I didn't go last year.
We have Mr. Atwood. Anyone else? And it's at the commission's discretion. Normally, I think we've sent 2 individuals. Am I correct? If 2 were able to go?
Yeah, there's a class before it that is actually pretty good. They introduced it in Seattle for about a 3-hour, and it's pretty good on sort of going over board responsibilities, different things you encounter as being a board member.
Probably on the 2nd. Is that the thought? I don't think that's here, but I think you're right.
It's
It is
on
the day before.
Thursday, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to go, but you're certainly welcome to ask those members that aren't here first.
So if the commission is okay, we would have Jim Atwood going and Randy, is that correct? And I will send a note to Mr. Johnston to see if he's able to go and interested.
What's that in mind, when you say that, is Rosie and Bennett, they're not eligible to go?
They're on the commission, yes.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
they would be.
Yeah, you asked them, I'm going to go,
Yes,
but you
yes.
asked them.
Okay,
that-
we've got
I'd be
two.
potentially interested in going as well.
Okay, fantastic. Anna, would you be able to go, May? Okay, so if it's okay with the commission, generally speaking now, because legal distribution of payroll has changed quite a bit, the attorneys aren't going to all these trips, but if it's okay and the commission agrees, we will at least put forth for Anna to go and see if that works out and if she's able to. If not, then, we go back to nothing. And I will likely go at year end, but I'm going to look into that first course the day before for commission members, or to see if it's worth. So we've got right now Jim Atwood, Randy Thomas, and Brett Mayfield being able to go. We will ask and see if our other members are interested, but at this point, would the commission like to do a motion, and then Anna, of course, for 4 individuals attending? If that's the case, then we may not be able to get approved for that many at year end. That's just the only thing. We just still need to have it approved.
What is year end?
In October in Washington, D.C., that's the annual one.
Oh, what is this one?
This one is the spring conference. I don't know that there's a big difference. I've never made it to the spring one. Is there a big difference, Randy? Okay. So if you can make it date-wise, I wouldn't put it off, because we end up finding then that something comes up at different times, especially if you've not been, Jim. Sounds good? We would need a motion right now. The commission would be sending 4 individuals, unless we have one more that wants to go. I doubt we'll be approved for 5. I can guarantee you that, but we'll definitely look.
Make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
When opposed? Okay.
And since this is almost around the corner, what I will do is, once I know how many were approved and if we are, I'll immediately let each individual know so you can make reservations. Flights, yes, I've got Brett on here. Absolutely. Okay, so I think we are mostly done. I want to answer any questions that we have for the meeting that is scheduled tomorrow to be held. That is here in Nashville. I believe Dr. McCarroll will not be able to go. So of the individuals that we were able to confirm would be going, Dr. McCarroll wouldn't be going. But I've put before on your iPad some of the documents. And Randy, you had asked me about the suggestions that were put together, the 10 items. That's on page 56 on your iPad.
Yeah, I got it right here.
So if you want to discuss, now would be the time where, as a commission, you can talk about anything that you want to state as a group or think through or represent.
Can I ask the question of the commission members that are here, how many are going to that meeting tomorrow? All of us? Okay, all of us are going. Number one, obviously, we can't even discuss. I don't feel like. I mean, I think
On
that's a
page
violation.
56.
Yeah.
The question there is, take a look at escalating prices on both commercial and
I don't think that's,
residential.
we're not going to get into, that's none of our business. I mean, the market ought to be able to determine if I want to hire you for $10 or, you want to do an appraiser for 50 cents. So I don't think that's it. Looked to me like when I looked at these, and you all correct me, there's only about 3 of these we can even barely discuss. You all look at the 10 of them, and why are, most of them, as far as I'm concerned, most of them got the same answer. But, if you want to discuss any of these before we get there, open it up. I'll be interested to see their point of view.
Yes. We wish you well, because I won't be able to go. We'll be in the middle of the audit and our kickoff for that. So we'll check in on you. Rex, do you know if everyone got the agenda and those documents? Did you?
Yes,
You did?
I think
Okay,
that
'cause
went
you put
out
their
late
email.
Thursday.
Okay. And I saw it. So I think you're okay. If you need anything or directions, the building is the tallest building you see when you look up at the hill. That is the building.
On the 3rd floor?
It's on the 3rd
Will
floor.
this get me in?
Good question.
Yes,
That
yes,
order- that
because I
order-
forgot mine last time.
Yes.
Couldn't get in last time, you had to
I had to get my license.
They will make you sign in, and do come in on that side of the bill. I'm trying to think of which side it is for the third floor, but all the conference rooms are on that floor.
I think it's this side, isn't it? This side of the building.
I think it is. I think it is.
Go in the basement.
You go in the basement. That's exactly right. And there's places to eat there. But, ring us or send me an email just with any kind of update or questions, but we'll be here.
All right.
Okay?
Before we make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Button, do you have something you want to say? No, it is not. No, it's an invitation thing. It was not invitation by the commission. We were invited to it. So, anything else?
Yes. Old business. Just to see if there's still any interest in the commission discussing this. We several meetings ago, I made a presentation regarding not qualifications, but criteria for the reviews. And we haven't gotten back to that, so I don't know what the commission wants to do with that. We didn't vote, we didn't do anything, we just postponed it, so is the commission interested in setting criteria for our reviewers?
Yes.
So when do we need to do that?
Well,
Next meeting?
that's what I was going to ask. At April meeting, we'll have our normal meeting, and then are we going to do the public hearing the next day?
I got to check on the numbers because we have to have notice out for so long and to get the process. I'm going to refrain from answering.
But one of the issues we had in October is we had a not only the rulemaking hearing, but a case, a
Hearing.
formal hearing.
Uh-huh.
So we knew we wouldn't be able to get those three moving pieces, including our business done. But in April, it's possible that we could have a long day, but not necessarily go into a 2-day meeting.
Okay. The reason I ask, is this something that we can sit and hammer out? I know we have to be public in doing it, but get through our business and then hash it out, say after lunch like this, break for lunch, and then come back and sort of work through it?
Absolutely. I mean, there are boards that actually review applications on the record and kind of decide, does this person, so yes, this you would be able to go back and forth and pose your questions and come up with at least a good draft that you could then work on. And keep in mind that if we get to a point where it's not perfect, but we've got a good start, then I can email it to everyone and we can do a little bit back, with me sending it to the different commission members.
In terms of, just for my information, in terms of numbers of reviewers, do we have 2, 8, 47, or how many?
So I believe we have 5 contracts now, which is better
Okay.
than when we were.
Okay.
And one of them has access to more than one appraiser, so that opens up the window of who they could use.
Adequate demand to kind of narrow the
There is. Now, the
qualifications?
5 now have really helped us. For a while, we had maybe 3. I mean,
And for that position to be a reviewer. If we're going to start setting qualifications on what that takes, I mean, do we have enough people that, have applied?
we didn't. We had to,
I'm not, excuse me, I'm not so sure that we're sending qualifications versus what we're expecting of a reviewer.
I got you.
Scope of work.
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
okay.
I got you.
Yeah, I think it's more like,
actual review, not for reviewers. That's what I,
Sorry.
I think the guidance there for what they need to put together so that the commission has a good piece of document and you can make a decision from that. That's
Exactly.
perfect, and we don't have that yet. Good.
anything else? Anything else, Roxana? Anything else legal? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion been made, seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Leave.
Thank you.